When it comes to 13.3s, not only are there not a lot of them left, but there's only a few black and white units to choose from. The second generation Fujitsu Quaderno, the 2-year-old Hanvon N10 Max, and the Readmoo Pro 2, which is essentially the same shell as the Fujitsu Linfini. So that essentially leaves one company with a current 13.3 that has any sort of customization, Onyx, with the Note Max, easily named. This is a 13.3 with Android, apps, 2 speakers, pogo pins for a keyboard attachment, and yes, despite the current restrictions from multiple manufacturers, Wacom EMR, which essentially means you can use any pen on the market on this unit instead of being limited to a cheap, underperforming active capacitive pen that we have seen as of late. Now, disclaimer, this is going to be a little bit of the matter of you've seen one review so you've seen them all kind of situation, because there's nothing necessarily groundbreaking this device offers. We will touch on reading manga PDFs, of course, and we'll look at some other things it can do that takes advantage of the full screen size like split screen. But don't be shocked if you don't see anything trailblazing, as this is a pretty vanilla unit all things considered. But with that, let's dive in. No, this device does not natively start in landscape, it just looks better on camera. You can go to the top here and you have rotate, eink center, feedback, navball, AI assistant, a whole bunch of stuff. This is all customizable as well. This unit isn't the fastest, things kind of trudge along, and I was a little bit thrown by that because this is such a spec powerhouse in and of itself, but just keep that in mind that in a lot of the modes it is going to be a little bit sluggish. If you swipe over, you'll get all of your kind of cards here, and you swipe back to the main screen, you get all your apps. Everything that is these kind of rounded, cartoonish looking applications are going to be the stock ones, and anything that looks kind of out of place is anything you've installed after the fact. You can go to Google Play, of course. This gives you millions upon millions of apps, and basically everything you're ever going to want is under here. Everything from games, apps, social media, movies. You can download Netflix and all that. You'll see that it is kind of slow. We'll touch on this a bunch, but you can go to A2 mode. Going to speed mode, speed things up a little bit more. We'll touch on that later. You have a browser, and as we said, anything you don't have, you just side load in. There's a bunch of different things like scrolling, screenshot, split screen. We'll show you that later on. You have Bluetooth, you have Wi-Fi, and going to the settings is just insane. There's so many settings here. Every time you go to a settings menu, there's more and more menus past that. And out of all the storage you have, out of the 128, you get about 104 available to you. You know, I'm honestly surprised how good this looks. It looks so crisp and flawless. Now, you don't get any color like you would on the Readmoo or the Fujitsu or the 13.3 colors of the world, which there's only enough to count less than one hand, but this is, for a black and white unit, exactly what you would want. This thing is really crisp, really clear, and again, as we'll told you many times, you can use those speed modes to really alter your experience by just going to the eink center every single time. You can make things quicker, you can make things look better, but drastically slower. There's really no hiccups or downside. You don't even get the graying effect that you get on the color units. This is really nice for manga, although unnatural because it's so big. And actually, as you can tell by my pinky being completely stressed out, this thing's really heavy to hold in one hand. It actually is really heavy. So you wouldn't be holding this in one hand very long to read for extended periods of time. You might walk out to the job site and jot down some ideas with the note-taking experience, which we'll show you very soon. But for manga, honestly, my hand is getting tired after only a minute and 20 seconds. This thing is quite heavy for one hand, and it is a very large screen, which means it's more akin to the North American crowd of graphic novels rather than the compact nature of a bookstore manga or a convenience store manga in Japan. So in that regard, it is unnatural, but the quality shines through all the same. This is gorgeous. Honestly, when it comes to e-reading or e-readers, there is such a thing as too much screen. This is a lot. there's a lot of text showing on the screen right now. Now you can change that, of course. You can up the font size, up the font styles, change the font styles. It all depends on what app you're using, and it does look good. And if you're wondering what that glare is, well, that's the glare of our studio lamp. Now you'll see, even with that, you are able to see through it. And why this is important is because if you had the exact same thing on your phone, you can see our studio lamp with umbrella is fully visible to the point where you can make out the brand, but on e-paper / e-ink, you can't. It breaks down the light, it refracts it, and really just diffuses everything so you can see right through it. So that's the beauty of e-paper, is that it's not going to be affected by glare. In fact, the more light the better, because it naturally works off of the ambient light. So you do have a very decent experience when it comes to reading, but you see I'm adjusting my hand a lot because, as we said in the manga experience, this thing is a huge Betty Bertha right here. This thing is massive. It is very hard to hold this in your hand comfortably for a very long time. This feels more akin to something like you're going to be used in short spurts, or using the dock that it has the accessory ports for, the pogo pins, because this, honestly, we've tried this so many times in various setups around the office, and we've given this to our other employees and stuff, and the consensus is that you're really just shaking your hands off trying to just build that defense mechanism back up to hold on to it again. This thing is so heavy. It is on the heavier side of things, and not to really point fingers, but Onyx has traditionally had heavier devices, even with the smaller units like the Tab Ultra C, etc. They're very aluminum block, chunky, thick devices. So this with a case even gets that much worse. It is a growing concern of the entire central thesis around this entire unit, is that it is just a little too heavy and unwieldy. But man, look at that quality. And if you zoom in, you can see even clearer how nice the blacks are on the whites. Look at that. That is such an ideal circumstance of contrast you would want on this reader. It is viewable at any angle. Look at that extreme angle. That's got to be 4%, and it's completely visible under any circumstance. This thing is so well built, and the visual is so close to the surface. It feels like it's just there. And they are a pretty strong example of usually building the screen with a significant screen gap, but this one is just so right up to the surface. It's irrefutably gorgeous. I love it so much. We got to get our hands on that keyboard dock because we currently don't have it, but we will potentially be doing an updated video on exactly that. PDFs work very good on this machine as well. Not only that, you can do split screen. So I can take all my notes here and start writing on this side. Now the only downside is that it doesn't work right away. You'll see here, it didn't do it. Now, there are other manufacturers that do have that immediate split screen functionality, like Quaderno, for example, but once you trigger one side, it actually doesn't do it right away. You have to tell the unit, I'm going to be writing on this side, and then I can. So it's a little bit strenuous how they still haven't figured that out over X amount of generations. But this is really nice because now that means I can have my PDF on this side, do everything I would want to do with all of the functionality, all of the top palette, all of the bottom functionality. I can change the text, I can do TTS, I can do preview, contrast, style, etc. But I still have my entire notepad over here and have everything that the note-taking experience gives me. So having a device this big finally gives you, I say finally, there's lots of 13.3s out there, but if you're just joining us, having a device this large gives you the ability to have two separate, say 7-inch screens, one on either side of each other. You can also grab the middle here and dictate how big you want either side to be to each respective side. So if I want my PDFs to be small and my notes to be big, I can do exactly that, thus altering the ratio. You don't need to use it with note-taking as well. As you can see right here, you can do the current document, you can do a 2-page spread, another document, handwritten notes, text, and translate. You can even split it vertically if you don't want to change the orientation of the unit itself. So if we choose current doc vertical split, I now have two of the exact same docs on my screen so I can maybe make notes, maybe do comparisons, keep one as kind of a working file and keep the other one as the one I want to make the alterations to. And each one of these the entire way gives you two respective palettes, and again you can change that ratio and increase or decrease each side. Recently, there are many manufacturers, including Onyx and including Bigme and other manufacturers as well, using these. These are active capacitive pens. They require charging more often than not, sometimes batteries, and they only work on the one unit. There's no crossover, and you can't use any other pen on their unit. These are effectively trash. They're a way to just make the device much cheaper for the manufacturer, and that doesn't always trickle down to the end consumer. These are effectively Wacom pens, aka EMR, electromagnetic resonance. That means you pick up this pen, you draw it on the screen, and it works. No charging, no batteries, no synchronization, no snapping it to the side for Bluetooth connectivity, nothing. They work the best, they're the least amount of maintenance, they have the cheapest tips. If you lose it, you just get another pen. For example, Onyx has their previous version, which was in all white. The tips will work on both. The devices are completely interchangeable. They work on each other. They'll work on any device. You can buy Lamy, Staedtler, Pilot, you can buy King Jim pens, Remarkable 2 pens, iFlytek pens, iReader pens, they all work. That's why the Note Max has a distinct advantage over other devices, even in their own lineups, is that they're using Wacom. Unfortunately, if you've seen one review, you've seen them all on this. They haven't really done too much different in the past couple generations on this, so it's going to be much the same, but let's go over what we can anyways. We're not going to go over everything just simply too much. We've covered it way too much for the past 5 years, but we'll give you the gist for anyone kind of just joining us. You have a bunch of different colors because this one is not a color device. You're not going to get actual colors. You're going to get shades of gray. You can choose paintbrush, pen, pencil, highlighter, all that stuff, and you can add more pens. You can just keep adding pens, and each one of these can toggle to something different. So if I want this one to be a paintbrush, light gray, big thick line, I can go here and have a pencil, and I want this pencil to be jet black with a high grit medium line, and now I can toggle between these. I can do that one, I can do this one, and I can do that one. So I now have the ability to go back and forth between them. Unfortunately, there's a dual-sided thing to this, is that there's no eraser on the back, but you do have an eraser here, so that kind of works for that. However, there is a positive, because if you use other pens other than the Onyx pen, you can do note-taking and erasing whenever you want, because this one has a reverse polarity on the back, and that's just going to come down to what pen you want. If you want Staedtler, if you want Lamy, if you want Pilot, there's so many brands out there that this having Wacom definitely does give you that benefit. Now, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. Now, this part's unfair. This is just not fair, because there isn't a single manufacturer that even comes in the same multiverse as Onyx when it comes to augmentation of what you can do with shapes. It's insanity, the amount of choices, the amount of features, what you can do with it. The fact that you can make a triangular, let's make this cube with a red with thick line with an inconsistent dotted line. That might be consistent, I didn't check. Look at that. You know how long that would take you to do with a ruler with gesture support off on this page? And I can make as many of these as I want just by just throwing them out there. It's so quick that no one comes close to this with shapes. You can do different vertices, you can do arrows, pluses, rectangular prisms, cones, hemispheres. It's just so wildly useful that they do so much of the work for you. And then they have this paint bucket fill thing too. So if you click on a color and click on an area in which you want to fill up. Well, there you go. Now we're Microsoft painting it all the way to the bank. As I said, you can turn the gesture support on or off right there, and you do have lots of layers. So much like Remarkable, which pioneered it, you can choose a whole bunch of layers, including the template layer, and just keep adding more and more. Now, something else they have, taking a page out of the book of iReader, is shape perfection. And now when I draw shapes, it's a perfect shape. You have to pause for a second, click out. So I'll do my triangle, pause for 1 second, let go, and it's a more perfect triangle than the one I drew. If you don't want this on, you can toggle it on and off anytime you want. You can also do lasso recognition and scribble to erase, all under the AI section. We will show you text recognition in 1 second, but we also have page, zoom. You have text box, so you can throw something in the middle. You choose where you want to put the text on the screen, and you can just start typing. You have search, add recordings, sync, and more. More will give you full refresh or customize the toolbar. And finally, before we get into text recognition, you have send. I love this one. This is so easy. A lot of manufacturers do this, but Onyx does it as well. You would click on what you want to send/share, click on that, and I say I want a PDF and I want to share. And when you do share, what it's going to do is go through your unit and it's going to ask you how you want to share. You can even print it directly from here. So if I had Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp and all my messaging services in Gmail, for example, it would show up here and I could just email it over to whoever I want. And this comes in really handy because if you get a document emailed to you, you can access it on this unit and it's got all this information and it says, hey, sign here. Well, all you have to do is sign it, click on send, and then email it back over. You just click on that and away you go. So you don't have to print anything out, sign it, scan it, email it, etc. It's all done within the device itself. And because it has a digitizer where you can digitally write, it's a natural signature because you can do your signature on it, which is just phenomenal, honestly. So let's get into some text recognition and see how well this actually recognizes text. So that converted instantaneously, number one. Number two, it even did it the original way that I wrote it. So I wrote it 3 words, 3 middle things with including the period, and then 5 elements on the bottom. I can even change it from original to reflow, etc. Now, it's not without its shortcomings because everyone writes differently and I didn't write perfectly, so it's going to find kind of where I did it on the screen and do the best it can with the information that I gave it. But again, you can also choose the reflow version that I showed you, and from there you can insert your own text, click on there and continue with the keyboard. And this would be a good time to look at the keyboard and know this doesn't have the keyboard dock, as we mentioned, right? They didn't send us one, but you're able to use the full QWERTY keyboard and you have secondary and tertiary keys and whatnot. And there's also basically an unlimited ways you can do this. You can write the things out with your pen like that. You write a P is going to show up on the screen. That's very useful. You can go back to the keyboard. You can choose your own keyboards, Chinese keyboard, Korean keyboard, Hangul. You can go to more languages. Because this is running Android, there's an unlimited amount of keyboards, and actually 72 of them, which is quite a bit of different keyboard and writing systems. Mongolian, Dutch, Malay. It's endless because they are harnessing Google as their inherent nature. So there's no shortage of solutions. You can cut things. You can do voice dictation. You can go to the keyboard settings and it brings you right over to the backend settings of what you can do with it. Floating keyboard, edit keyboard, split keyboard. It's really, there's just too much to cover. It would be impossible to show you every single thing because there's menus upon menus upon menus of sub-menus that it just infinitely goes. So they've left it to you to craft your own experience and your work-life solutions. A little bit of a disclaimer, these are generic Wacom tips. They're not Onyx tips. The same ones that the Scribe uses, the same one that the Remarkable 2 uses, the same one that Fujitsu uses. So everything's going to come down to the screen itself. And the writing feel is adequate. It is a little bit on the slippery side. There's not a whole lot of grip, and there's very little feedback in the pen itself. It doesn't feel very real. It does feel better than an Apple Pencil on an iPad, that's for dang sure. But you really you can't beat the king, and that is the Quaderno. This thing is so real. It has a crazy amount of grip. It feels and sounds like paper. And the Onyx just ends up being very tablety when compared to some of the better, more gritty texture screens like the Quaderno itself and anything using the Linfinity shell. It isn't bad by any means, but if you're asking us, the experts, we would say it's about middle of the road. As you saw, more than in just videos, you do have a complete just junction board of what you can do with speed modes. You have normal, you have A2, and depending on the app you're using, you'll have additional modes like X mode, speed mode, etc. You'll have Regal during reading as well. So we're just going to give you a little bit more of an idea by opening up a PDF again. Now, if we go to the PDF and we click the bottom, we have different refresh modes. We now have Regal and Speed. Full refresh is normal or a deep refresh, which clears every single piece of artifacting and all the remaining previous displays remnants away. You also have drag to refresh after 3 seconds, speed mode, no refresh, and full refresh rate however many taps. Now if you go to something else like Google Play Books and we open up a book, something else is going to show up. So if we go over here, we open up the previously viewed sample we have, and then we go back to speed modes, you will now see we have normal, Regal, and A2. Furthermore, on pretty much everything, you have light color filter, dark color enhancement, you have the ability to reset if you get a little bit lost in what you're doing. You also have more. More is going to take you to drag to refresh, current app, animation filter time, scrolling using a page. There's a whole bunch here, and you can even refer to the speed mode as well. So you can go to this thing at the bottom, which is called the eink center, anytime you want. Furthermore, you can go to the actual settings, and this gives you the app refresh, so you can assign what app you want to be in what mode at any given time. For example, Neo browser, we can click on that, and I want it to be in normal all the time, and maybe Google Play Books, I click on that, I want that to be in Regal all the time. So you can set that up very easily in the back-end settings. This isn't Onyx's fault, not by a long shot. But ePaper products are just kind of all the same now, especially because we're adding back features we've seen taken away from us years ago. Despite the advancements in refresh and the screen technology itself, e-reader manufacturers are simply just spinning their wheels. This unit cements itself as one of the greatest and most capable 13.3s you can buy, but honestly, the unit itself, on an inherent level, isn't much different than anything else they offer. It's just bigger. So if screen real estate is what you want, Onyx has it for you, and then some. See you on the next one.